Alice Wong by Lynette Herrera. Introduction. I chose Alice Wong because I have never heard of her and I would like to learn more about the various people with disabilities. Alice Wong is a disabled activist, writer, editor, media maker, and consultant. Alice is the founder and director of the Disability Visibility Project, an online community dedicated to creating, sharing, and amplifying disability media and culture. She has many awards for her influence in the community, such as advising people in Congress about policies and programs that affect the disabilities community. She has written Year the Tiger, an activist life, and is featured in Disability Visibility first-person stories from the 21st century. Type of communication disorder. Alice was born with a spinal muscular atrophy, and in June of 2022, her lungs collapsed. Spinal muscular atrophy is a rare genetic disease that causes muscular weakness and decreases the size of tissue. This condition affects the nerve cells in the brain and spinal cord breakdown. Alice stopped walking around age 6, and today she uses a motorized wheelchair and bi-level positive airway pressure, which helps her breathe. She also lost her ability to speak and started using a text-to-speech app to communicate. What is the impact on the person's life? How does a communication disorder affect her daily activity? While Alice was growing up, she noticed that she was the only physically disabled and Asian American student. She disliked that she stuck out in school. She struggled with racism and trying to adapt to the crowd. Alice soon embraced her disabilities and uplifted the people around her. These bits of hardware, machines, and everyday objects may not live and breathe, but they are a part of me. They simultaneously ground and liberate me. They center me and allow me to make the most of my life.
All people need to be able to exercise their right to speak out, their right to vote, their right to make their voices heard. Oftentimes, physical barriers, attitudinal barriers, and policy barriers really prevent people with disabilities to be full participants in our society. My name is Alice Wong. There are still a lot of barriers that people with disabilities face in political participation. For example, in 2012, over 30% of people with disabilities reported difficulty voting, compared to 8% of non-disabled people. People with disabilities are still facing numerous barriers, whether it's at the polling station, whether it's filling out an absentee ballot, or whether they're even allowed to vote, because there are people with intellectual and developmental disabilities, many of whom are under guardianship for various reasons. Many judges bar people under guardianship from voting, and I think that's another huge human rights issue. They may need assistance with decision making, but that doesn't mean they don't have an idea of who they want to vote for, or a desire to vote for somebody. People with disabilities have a voice, whether it's an actual literal voice or not. People have thoughts, people have desires, people want to be involved. That's the work that needs to be done.
What way does the disorder affect the person's social, academic, or professional life? Alice was connecting to people through her social media, consulting, and activism. When she published her book, Year the Tiger, her left lung collapsed. She went to the ICU and could not promote her book. This was her greatest fear. She had to step back and make sure that her health was back in order. When she got out the hospital, she came out with a tracheostomy, a feeding tube, and text-to-speak equipment. Include how they talk about their own experiences with the communications disorder and whether they have talked about discriminations they have experienced. As an activist, Alice Wong worked hard on changing the views and even the policies to support people with disabilities. In her book and while speaking, she has shared her experiences and hoped to make other people's lives easier. While growing up, Wong's education was filled with enraging, traumatic, discriminatory, bullying, and embarrassing experiences. But the teacher made young Alice feel as if she were brimming with potential. Did the person receive treatment for the communication disorder? What kind of treatments did they receive? When Alice Wong stopped walking, she had a spinal fusion surgery to treat severe scoliosis. The surgery weakened her diaphragm and has to depend on a ventilator to breathe. She learned how to manage and communicate what she needs to her caregivers. In 2022, it became more difficult for her since she has to use the text to speak to communicate to other people. These are my references.